Part 1. The Beginning. Yggdrasil and the Threads of Fate. Imagine a tree, not just any tree. A tree so vast its roots pierce the abyss, its branches cradle the heavens, and its trunk holds the weight of worlds. This is Yggdrasil, the cosmic ash tree, the pillar of existence, centuries before men walked the earth, before the first drop of blood, before the first beating heart, there was only Ginnungagap, the yawning void. On one side burned the fires of Muspelheim, on the other the icy winds of Niflheim, and where fire met ice, life sparked. From this clash rose the first being, Ymir, the primordial giant, and from Ymir's sweat and limbs and skull, the 9 realms were born. The gods, the Aesir, came after. Odin the Allfather, who traded an eye for wisdom, Thor the Thunderer, breaker of mountains, Frigg, goddess of foresight, Tyr the bold, Freyja the beautiful, Loki the trickster. They ruled from the golden halls of Asgard, watched over mankind in Midgard, and kept the delicate balance of all realms. But even the gods knew, nothing lasts forever. Deep in the roots of Yggdrasil, 3 ancient weavers, the Norns, spun the threads of fate. Even Odin feared them, because they saw an ending, a great doom, a twilight of the gods. They whispered its name, Ragnarök. Ragnarök is not just death. It is the unmaking of reality, the collapse of order, the fire that will consume the heavens and the sea that will drown the earth. And yet, from its ashes, something new will rise. This is the story of that doom, the story of the Norse apocalypse, the 9 realms. To understand Ragnarök, we must know the world it will destroy. Yggdrasil holds 9 realms within its mighty branches: Asgard, home of the Aesir gods, Odin, Thor, Baldur, Frigg; Vanaheim, the land of the Vanir, gods of fertility and magic; Midgard, the realm of humans, linked to Asgard by the rainbow bridge Bifrost; Jotunheim, land of the giants, sworn enemies of the gods; Alfheim, home of the light elves, radiant and ethereal; Svartalfheim, dark and hidden, where dwarves craft their wonders; Niflheim, the realm of ice and mist, cold and deathly; Muspelheim, a world of eternal flame, ruled by the fire giant Surtr; Helheim, the underworld, ruled by Hel, Loki's daughter. These realms are not just places, they are forces. Order and chaos, life and death, fire and ice, all bound together. The gods and their enemies. The Norse gods are not immortal in the way we imagine. They age, they bleed, they die, and they know it. They feast, they fight, they love, all in the shadow of the coming doom. Their enemies are many: the Jotnar giants, ancient, primal forces of chaos; Loki, born of giants, blood brother to Odin, trickster, destined to betray them; Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, child of Loki, so powerful even the gods fear him; Jörmungandr, the world serpent, so large it encircles the earth; Hel, the queen of the dead, cold and silent; Surtr, the fire giant, who waits at the edge of the world with his flaming sword. Each has a role to play, each has a destiny, each will rise when the end comes. He prophecy. It begins as a whisper. The seeress of Völuspá speaks to Odin. I see the end coming. Brothers will slay brothers. Sun and moon will be devoured. The earth will sink beneath the sea, and the gods will fall. Even Odin cannot stop it. He knows his fate, to be devoured by the wolf Fenrir. Thor will slay the world serpent but die from its venom. Surtr will burn the world. Loki will return with the dead to wage war on the living. The Norns have woven it, and no one can cut the threads. Ragnarök is not just the end of gods, it is the end of everything they built, and the birth of something entirely new. But that rebirth is far away. For now the sun still shines, the gods still feast in Valhalla, and men still live their brief lives in Midgard. They do not yet know that winter is coming. Part 2. The beginning of Ragnarök, the endless winter, and the escape of the beasts. And then the world began to die. Not with fire, but with ice. The first sign of Ragnarök was not war, it was silence. Birdsong vanished. Winds screamed. The sun grew dim behind veils of frozen mist. Then the snows came. Fimbulwinter, the great winter. For 3 long years, the 9 realms lay buried in endless blizzards. No summer broke the frost. No crops grew. No warmth returned. Brother turned on brother. Blood spilled on frozen earth. And as Midgard's people tore each other apart, the gods watched from their golden halls uneasy. Even the bravest among them whispered, "The prophecy has begun." Far below the earth, Fenrir stirred. The wolf who had once been small enough to cradle, now filled a cavern with his massive body. The magical ribbon Gleipnir still held, but it trembled, for the power of fate itself gnawed at its threads. And one night, under the shivering light of a blood-red moon, Gleipnir snapped. With a roar that shook mountains, Fenrir broke free. His chains shattered like glass. His footsteps cracked the earth. His howl split the heavens. The first beast was loose. In the black depths of the world's ocean, something moved. Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent, uncoiled. For centuries he had grown, feeding in the dark, circling the world like a living ring. But now the cold stirred him, and he rose. Storms raged as he breached the surface. His body so vast it crushed ships with a flick of his tail. Lightning danced across his scales. His venom boiled the waves, and when he opened his jaws, the stench of death poured across the sea. Deep in the dark caves where he had been bound, Loki lay chained. The gods had imprisoned him after the death of Baldra, binding him with the entrails of his own son. A venomous serpent dripped poison onto his face, and his screams had shaken the roots of the world. But during the chaos of Fimbul winter, the earth cracked, the serpent's bowl tipped, and Loki slipped free. He rose pale and furious, his eyes burning with vengeance. He swore to destroy the halls of the gods that had scorned him, and he strode north to the land of the dead, to Helheim, to raise an army. Hel, Loki's daughter, welcomed him with an empty smile. Her half-dead armies stood silent in the frozen dark shadows with eyes like dying stars. Loki called to them, promised them vengeance, promised them the burning of the heavens. They followed. The ship Naglfar, built from the fingernails of the dead, groaned in the ice. Its black sails unfurled like wings of night, and as the Fimbul winter winds howled, Naglfar tore free from the ice and set sail for the realms of the living. Far to the south, the flames of Muspelheim roared higher. Surtr, the fire giant, watched the chaos with smoldering eyes. His sword burned like the heart of a star, and when the ice had weakened the world, he would march. Behind him, legions of fire demons gathered, their armor glowing like molten iron. They beat their drums of war, and the heat of their march melted the snows in their path. Above, the wolves Skirl and Hati howled. For centuries they had chased the sun and moon across the sky. Now, at last, they caught them. The sun screamed as Skirl's jaws closed around her. The moon wept pale light as Hati devoured him whole. Darkness fell. High atop the roots of Yggdrasil, the watchman Heimdall stood, his golden teeth clenched, his eyes wide. In his hands the Gjallarhorn gleamed, forged to sound only once. At the end of all things, he raised it to his lips, and as its thunderous roar shook the realms, all knew Ragnarök had begun. Part 3. The final battle of Ragnarök, when gods and monsters fell. Darkness had fallen, the stars had vanished. The roots of Yggdrasil trembled as the end marched toward Asgard. The battlefield of fate was vast and lifeless, Vigrid plain, stretching farther than mortal eyes could see, silent, waiting. And then they came. From the east, the frost giants of Jotunheim. Their footsteps cracked the frozen ground, their axes taller than trees. From the south, the fire giants of Muspelheim, led by Surtr himself, his flaming sword carving the air with molten light. From the north, the ship Naglfar glided across black waters, bearing Loki, Hel, and legions of the dead, and from the center of the world, the oceans boiled, as Jörmungandr rose like a living mountain, encircling the plain. The armies of chaos had come. High in Asgard, the golden halls were silent. The gods stood in armor, their faces pale. They had laughed, feasted, sung, but now they knew they were mortal. Odin the Allfather mounted Sleipnir, his eight-legged steed. He wore a black cloak over golden mail, and Gungnir, the spear of the gods, burned in his grip. Thor strode beside him, Mjolnir crackling with lightning. Freyr held his shining sword, though he knew prophecy said he would fall without it. Tyr, one-armed, readied his blade. Heimdall, the watchman, stood tall, his horn still echoing in the cold. They rode to meet their doom. Across Bifrost they came, its rainbow bridge shattering behind them, and descended to Vigrid. A silence like the void itself fell, and then thunder. The sky cracked as Thor charged, lightning splitting the darkness. The ground quaked as the armies slammed together like colliding worlds. Steel rang on steel, screams tore the air, blood froze on black snow. Odin's ravens wheeled above the chaos, screaming, From the smoke came a roar, Fenrir towering, monstrous, his jaws wider than gates. Each step shattered the earth. His eyes were burning suns of hate. Odin lowered his spear and rode to meet him. They collided like storms. Gungnir flashed, slicing flesh and fur. Sleipnir leapt, hooves pounding air. Fenrir lunged, jaws closing on thunder. But prophecy cannot be broken. With a single terrible snap, Fenrir swallowed Odin whole. The Allfather was gone. The gods screamed, but one did not. Vidar, the silent son of Odin, strode through the chaos. He wore a thick boot of iron and leather. He placed it on Fenrir's jaw, and with all the strength of vengeance, he ripped the wolf's mouth apart. Fenrir fell, lifeless, jaws split to the sky. Odin was avenged, but the king of the gods lay dead. Meanwhile, the sea itself rose. Jörmungandr's body coiled around the battlefield like a living continent. Thor roared and charged. Lightning exploded from Mjolnir as it struck the serpent's skull. Jörmungandr lashed his tail, flattening armies. Thor leapt, crashing through the serpent's coils, hammer striking again and again. With a final bellow of rage, Thor shattered Jörmungandr's skull. The serpent fell, and the ocean with him. But as Thor staggered back, the beast's venom filled his lungs. He walked 9 steps and fell dead. Through the storm strode Loki, armor black as night, eyes green with hate. Heimdall blocked his path, the last watchmen. They circled like wolves. They struck like lightning. Loki's daggers hissed with poison. Heimdall's blades sang like silver fire. They fought until their blood stained the snow black. And at the last, they struck together. 2 screams, 2 bodies, both fell, still and cold. The trickster and the watchman, gone. Then, silence. The field was corpses. The gods were broken. And Surtr. Surtr still stood. He raised his flaming sword high. It burned brighter than the sun. The air ignited. The sky burned. Surtr swung. And the fire of creation itself consumed the world. The 9 realms crumbled. Mountains melted. Oceans boiled. The roots of Yggdrasil burned. The world was gone. Part 4. The Death of the Norse Cosmos. When Yggdrasil fell and fire consumed all. It was over. The battlefield lay still. The gods were dead, and the world began to break. For the first time since creation, the 9 realms were silent. No clash of steel, no war horn, no thunder, only the crackling hiss of fire. Ash drifted over the corpses of gods and giants alike. The plain of Vigrid was a graveyard. No victor, no survivors, only ruin. And then, Surtr moved. The fire giant stood alone, his massive frame wreathed in molten light. His sword burned brighter than the sun. He had waited since the dawn of time for this moment. Not to win, not to conquer, but to destroy. Surtr lifted his blade and plunged it into the heart of the world. The ground split. Flame roared from the core like a living beast. Fire raced across the plains, swallowing the dead. The seas boiled to steam. The air screamed. The world burned. Deep beneath the realms, the roots of Yggdrasil cracked. For eons, the world tree had held the cosmos together, its branches cradling the realms, its roots drinking from wells of destiny. Now its bark blackened, its leaves turned to ash, its roots caught fire. The cries of unseen creatures echoed from its hollow trunk as the world tree collapsed. The 9 realms tore loose, falling into the void like dying stars. Above, the heavens screamed. The stars, once eternal, shivered and died. The sun, devoured by the wolf skull, exploded in a silent flare of fading light. The moon, swallowed by Hati, crumbled to dust. The sky cracked like glass, and through it, the black void poured in. Space itself unraveled, ribbons of starlight whipping away into nothing. The oceans rose to the sky, then they boiled, then they vanished. Great waves turned to clouds of steam, ships burned to cinders. The bones of drowned kings surfaced and crumbled to dust. What was once the heartbeat of Midgard was gone. Only cracked seabeds and whispering steam remained. Mountains wept fire. Their peaks glowed red, then collapsed in molten avalanches. Valleys filled with lava. Rivers hissed and turned black. The very bones of the earth melted and bled. A few lived still, scattered, terrified. A single eagle flew through ash-black skies, its wings catching fire as it screamed. A lone frost giant crawled across molten stone, skin sloughing from bone. A dying god crawled through smoke, calling a name no one would answer. One by one they fell, and then even sound died. No wind, no fire, no breath, the universe was still, no light, no warmth, no time. The 9 realms were gone. Yggdrasil was ash, the gods were dust, there was only darkness. Part 5, After Ragnarök, how a new world rose from the ashes of the old. And then, after the fire, after the screams, after the silence, there was a heartbeat. Far beyond the ashes of the fallen realms, a spark floated in the void. It pulsed. Once, then again, and then light. A single ray broke through the darkness. It spilled across cracked stone and steaming seas. The world, though broken, still turned. The flames withdrew. The ground cooled. New grass pushed through blackened soil. Clear rivers carved paths through the ash. The sky, once shattered, began to mend. Clouds gathered. Rain fell, and life breathed again. In the sky, a glow rose from the ruins of the old sun. A daughter of the fallen sun took her mother's place. Her light was soft and kind. The new sun rose over the newborn world, casting gold over green. In a hidden forest, deep within the roots of what once was Yggdrasil, 2 figures stirred, Lif and Lifthrasr. They were not gods, they were not warriors, they were simply human. They had survived the fire by sheltering in the world tree's hollow trunk, sleeping through the end of all things while dew fed them. Now they emerged into dawn, and far away, on the empty plains of Asgard, footsteps echoed. Not all gods had perished. Baldur, the Radiant One, returned from Hel's shadowed halls. Beside him walked Hrothr, his once blind brother, now forgiven. Vidar and Vali, sons of Odin who had avenged their father, stood silently beneath the new sun. A new pantheon was forming, born not from pride, but from memory. From the blackened stump of the old world tree, a sprout rose, tiny, fragile, glowing with soft green light. This seedling was the soul of Yggdrasil, returning. Its roots sought the new rivers, its leaves reached for the gentle sun. The cosmos was beginning again. Realms slowly awoke from the void. Alfheim's forests regrew, light elves dancing in the mist. Vanaheim bloomed, fields of golden grain waving in new winds. Midgard healed, its mountains crowned in snow again. Even distant Jotunheim stirred, its frozen cliffs glittering in pale light. The 9 realms were reborn. There were no thrones, no golden halls, no war, only earth, and sky, and people. The age of gods had ended, the age of men had begun, and so the world ended, and so it began. What was destroyed was not forgotten. What returned was not the same. Ragnarök was not just an ending, it was a beginning.